Hello, and welcome to the second episode of the Bridge of Love podcast. My name is Erin Cameron, and I'll be your host. Our focus for today, the gift, as it were, is how my experience with Haddon led me to choosing or claiming my reality. And we'll dig a little bit deeper into the why behind the podcast. Before we begin, I wanted to clarify something from episode 1. I described the ways Haddon communicates, and in all of that, I forgot to mention that she does use a speech device, which tracks her eyes. She loves that and is, in the process of getting a brand new device, actually. And there's some new technology around that, and that's been really fun for everyone. But one of the things she taught me was the value of all of those other ways of communicating, including telepathy. So I focused on those, during the first episode, just because that's kind of a way of introducing her, describing her ways of her communication, how different they are. But the device is certainly part of that. And we'll go into all of that further in a future episode. So I have come to believe that from a soul level, we choose the challenges we go through in life. And within them are the gifts that lead us back to the truth of ourselves, and that living in this truth enriches our lives tremendously. This is why I want to share my journey. And because I believe that being around special needs kids is such a beautiful path for those that were chosen and that did choose it, but also that the special kids are here to teach anyone and everyone open to this wisdom. It's not, only for their parents and caregivers to experience. They're here to teach all of us. And proud to be sitting here as hopefully a representation of that for Haddon. It's my honor to help her through this life, and it's my passion to focus on the purpose and the magic within it. So after my daughter's spine surgery, as I talked about in the first episode, as I came fully into the awareness that something else was going on, of her being here for a bigger reason, or for some reason that I didn't really have anything to do with, right? That realization. And asking what that reason is, when I asked myself that question, I could look back through my life with her and see a really common thread that ran through the entire experience. And that was this dichotomy of how I knew her and how I experienced her and how I felt the outside world knew her. And those two things it seemed to be like I was having completely two different experiences. I would be with her and it was the most amazing thing ever. Energetically, she's just a vibration you want to be around. She's happy, very high vibrational. And to me, she was perfect. Even physically, I used to reason it, as, well, she's going to get better. I always had this feeling that she would get better. And I think that's because I just didn't ever feel that anything was wrong with her. My experience of her was just too much filled with joy. It was too it's not to say that we didn't go through difficult things. Obviously, raising her was difficult in a lot of ways. It just means that my experience of her human, of her being, was one that was very pure, and I didn't feel like there was anything wrong. Um, I felt blessed to be her mom, and this. But then when I would go out in the world and deal with anything for her, or with her, I just felt like that's when the differences were highlighted, right? So an example would be like I felt the separateness from the other kids at school, from the normal kids, from I didn't feel like very connected or like that I had much in common with, parents with normal children. I just always felt this separation, and uh, the confusing isn't exactly the word. I just felt like the outside world didn't resonate with what I was experiencing with her and experiencing as her true self. So yeah, there's the separation, from other kids, um, everyone else going through normal life. That's very drastic. That you're in a different world almost. Um, you know, Sometimes it wasn't anything the outside world was even doing. It's outside world just in this case could mean just the labels of special needs or disabled. All of those things get into your field and kind of confuse you. um, it and sometimes it was something that was actually happening in the outside world, like going to the doctor and uh, you'd get we had a bunch of different types of doctors, and you would get to the ones especially that had to do with like her actual diagnosis, like the actual um, areas of her condition that were most challenging. So like a neurologist, for example, I would go in to that appointment and feel great because I had been around her. I'm with Haddon, everything's perfect. And then I would have the experience, when they were trying to help her, that whole experience was just a reminder of everything that was wrong, quote wrong with her. And so it was like I just throughout her entire, my entire experience with her, I would kind of, it wasn't a roller coaster necessarily. It was just, that's the best way I can explain it. It was a dichotomy between, what I saw as her and what I felt like the outside world saw. Minus, some of her therapists and things that actually could see the real her even more than me, and because they were comfortable around special kids, they loved them, they were connected, they were all the way there, and that's a completely different story. But so that was like that common thread that ran through so much of my experience with her. And I could see that, once I started wondering what the bigger purpose was in all of it, for her, for me, that kind of was a highlight, because I thought, well, if there's some awesome big purpose that she has, um, you know, how could that be interrupted by there being all this stuff wrong? So as I connected with her in by channeling her, I was connecting in the like higher dimensions of consciousness. And within that journey, as I started doing that, and tuning in on that level, on sort of a higher level, I started to see that this dichotomy was something that was going on internally within myself, kind of this internal struggle, and within my own beliefs. Um, and if that was the case, I could shift myself. I could make that shift myself to knowing her only as the her I was experiencing, as the Haddon I was experiencing. And I recognized that the reason I knew this perfect version of her is that I was connecting with her from my heart when I would channel, and also just that's what highlighted it just being around her. It was the same connection. Um, so, and through the messages that I would receive from her, she affirmed over and over that we chose this life together, that we chose to go through it together. And she would kind of go through what that journey, was. And so I realized if I chose to be here and chose the journey, then I have the power to choose my truth around it. And I just sort of came into this knowing that my truth of our experience is the only one. Or it can be the only one, right? It's a question anyone can ask themselves. What is true for you about your life experience? What I've learned is that is for you to decide. And it doesn't have to be defined by anyone or anything outside of you. So how amazing does that feel? So yeah, you don't need to be told how to see your life or how to feel about it. And that was the lesson I was taking in. And once I connected fully to the truth that I always knew about her, about Haddon, and I put all the weight of my value system on that truth, and I kind of removed all the weight from the one that said there was something wrong. The whole entire experience became magical. It just transformed. It is, I say, the thing that this decision or this choice, to know that I choose the reality, not even that I choose my reality, but I'm choosing to know Haddon only as the truth of her, and to know myself only as the truth of me. That opens you up to all of the magic in your experience, no matter what it is. When you don't allow the outside world to define who you are, who your kid is, what you see valuable in them, what you're getting out of the experience, what you are being shown about you from them, all of that opens up as soon as you put all of the weight in that knowing. You already know what the truth is of them. You know them. It opened up so much for me, and opened me up to all of the magic. I have always said she's opened me up to the magic. So this lesson was that inside I already knew the truth, right? That's what I just said, the truth of this experience. I just had to put my focus there. And so that's what I started doing. And this podcast was even born out of that focus. I wanted to focus entirely on the positive, on the deeper meaning behind what we're all doing here, which is beautiful from a higher perspective, from the highest perspective. It's absolutely beautiful. So if you find yourself on two sides of the fence, you're struggling at times, and then at other times knowing that, oh yeah, this life is actually really beautiful. Haddon offers this perspective that you alone have the power to choose which side of the fence you want to be on, what feels more true to you. To me, I always felt like I had to fight the outside world for what I believed to be true until I made the shift inside of myself, until I found the power inside myself to choose my own reality and to choose where to put my focus and energy. And that changed everything for me. So that was the beginning of all of this journey. It certainly was not the beginning of my journey with Haddon, but it was the beginning of really learning from it and coming into receiving the gifts from her and from the experience of being her parent, and not even just being her parent, but just being someone that has been gifted with her presence. And when you see that as a gift, when you recognize, even if you're not sure what the value is of your kid or any kid, to know that they do have value, to know that there's absolutely nothing wrong with how they chose to come here and how they chose to experience their life. You start finding the stuff that's entirely right, and then it starts to make more sense. And, again, this all came about through my love for my daughter. That connected me to a curiosity. It connected me to a knowing. It is, that love is what allowed me to connect with her in higher dimensions of consciousness. So yeah, again, the love is the bridge. That really is where all of this started. This was my first lesson, the first gift that came out of this experience, is really just the gift of solving that dichotomy, of choosing to exist fully in what I saw as being the truth. That there's absolutely nothing wrong with her. She's perfect. She's here for a higher purpose, as we all are. And focusing on those positive aspects instead of trying to, worry so much about fixing or changing how she is, then you just open up to everything she's here, everything that any kid is here to to offer the world. So I hope that you enjoyed this, and I certainly did. These episodes are going to be fun. They're going to be filled with light and joy, and yes, it's about learning, but it's really taking on the energy behind all of it. There's such a positive energy and a positive vibration that is available when you spend time with a special human being. So I'm here to pass that on to you and share it. And I'm so happy that you were here today. Sending you so much love from me and from Haddon. And until next time, take care.